Welcome back. This is episode 6. Dekkster is here.
I'm here.
I am here. Dekkster and Dera pod number 6. We made it all the way here. We're gonna do some good discussions today, I think. Right, Dekkster?
Yeah, I'm excited. We got a lot to talk about, just like we do every episode.
Yeah. So this week we're gonna talk about, obviously, Nebula came out. We have the OTA that happened. We have the new card Iron Lad. And then we're going to get into some nitty gritty about some not so great stuff, that we think is happening. Card acquisition, had some news there. Big bad news as well. So we're going to get into that. And that's going to be our episode for today. So what do you think about Nebula, Dekkster? How did it perform?
I think last time we were talking about how Nebula was going to be cracked, one of the best one drops in the game, and that's pretty much true. She's very good.
Yeah,
you just put her on a lane.
Win rate card.
Yeah, 0.46 cubes on average. That's pretty solid. That's a super high win rate. It's actually that's
this
cracked.
Is super high.
Yeah, but
very good card. It seems like.
You just play Nebula in a lane, and then if people don't play someone in that lane, you're gonna win it. That's how it is. Nebula's great. I originally tried to build decks around Nebula, try to make like Guardians decks and stuff like that. They weren't too great. Yep. I think Nebula is just a card you put in a deck. It can strengthen.
They weren't too great?
Yeah. Well, no, sorry. The Guardians build for me wasn't great. And I mean like heavy Guardians, like Nebula and Rocket and Star-Lord.
Let's pull up your stats for, look
and
at this
Groot.
Nebula.
No. Scroll down.
Star-Lord.
No,
Rocket.
Scroll down. Scroll.
Yeah, you put it all in here is what you're telling me.
Yeah, I put everybody in there. Nebulectra. Yes, this was all the Guardians. I had Rocket, Star-Lord, Groot, Drax, Gamora. Thought Professor X to lock a lane down to win it with Nebula and then win the other lane. The main thing I learned, which is applied in future deck lists, is Gamora and Rocket Raccoon on that last turn is pretty crazy. You kind of just win the lane you play him in.
Yeah, Rocket. I actually haven't really played much Gamora in my time of Snap, but I also was playing Gamora in a list for this that actually picked up a lot of popularity, that a lot of people started playing a similar-ish list. But I've just realized that Gamora is a pretty good 5-drop. Like just dropping it, like 12 power is a lot,
Yeah, 5/12. That's as good as it gets, aside from Red Skull. Yeah, Gamora is seeing a lot more popularity lately, but Nebula is she's very good. If you can afford the battle pass, you're probably not going to regret getting Nebula.
The best one drop. Yeah, you're not going to regret getting one of the best cards that you could get.
The best one drop. What's second best? Iceman?
Yeah, probably Iceman. Like I feel like there's a lot in contention for like best, because I think it's a little bit situational nowadays, because there's not like an undisputed best. Like Sunspot used to be like the undisputed, like could slot it into any deck one drop, and now it's like Iceman in certain metas. Like I don't think Iceman's as useful right now as it had been, because there's a lot of like, I don't know, it's good if like you face a Sarah deck and it hits a Sarah, it's like then they can never play it. So
yeah,
it's like situational in that sense, but it's like hard to hit the Sarah because it doesn't matter if it hits anything but Sarah in a Sarah deck for the most part.
Yeah, we'll get around to the meta wrap up eventually, but that stature deck doesn't care about getting Iceman really.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that stature deck for sure. That's on the meta topic, because that thing is popping. But this next card coming out, you know what it is?
Yeah, Iron Lad. He's gonna be pretty good. For people who don't know what Iron Lad is, it's a 4/6 with on reveal. Copy the text of your top decks or your deck's top card. So
your top deck.
Of your top deck, yeah. So if you were gonna draw a Jubilee, all of a sudden Iron Lad is gonna copy that Jubilee on reveal. Or a Galactus. If you had Galactus on the top of your deck, Iron Lad becomes that. Or a White Tiger, or a Black Panther, or really anything.
Or Rock Slide, or
this card.
Darkhawk,
this card is so good. It's so freaking good, actually. I think because it's got that Enchantress. Yeah, it's got that Enchantress stat line already, and then hitting your Darkhawk or hitting a Rock Slide or even a Korg probably isn't the end of the world. It's
like hitting a 1-drop isn't the end of the world. That's how good this card is going to be. I feel like that's like, yeah, I think this is going to be played in that stature deck for sure. Like hitting a Black Bolt, that's already, yeah, I think this is going to be a premium card. People like didn't really think it through. I feel like when they first saw it, and they were like, "Oh, it'll be okay. It'll be thrown into some like you'll play it to get an Iron Man or something." But I feel like that's the small brain thinking. Like there's like you need to think 5-head, and just put it in every deck that runs good cards. It's just like, and then it's good. It's just
I like the small brain thinking though. Hitting Iron Man is great.
Right, it would be great, but it's like that's like thinking like the Mr. Negative style thinking. Like you're thinking of just like when I high roll and I get the best like possible thing, but like Mr. Negative decks aren't good, right? Like right now they like feel really powerful when they go off, but it's like you got to think of like just the consistent plays, not necessarily just like the high roll potential of a card.
Yeah, he's gonna be very good. Way better than the past few weeks of cards. I mean, Stegron was kind of underwhelming. Jeff, pretty good, and got even better since Nebula came out for some reason, because everyone started playing X. Snowguard was bad, but Iron Lad this whole month, honestly, looking like some really good cards.
Yeah, we do have the next card coming out, which we'll talk more in depth, I think, next podcast. But just real quick to touch on it, because it's directly related, I think, to Iron Lad, is Howard the Duck, which allows you to tap on it after you've played it, and then it'll show you what your top card is, so you can know when you want to Iron Lad a little bit more. Like, do you want to Iron Lad on turn 5 if you know it's going to get a bad effect? Maybe not. Like, I personally, we'll talk about this more next week, but like, I don't necessarily think that this will be necessary, just because, like, I think if you're running a good enough consistent deck, you won't need to check what the top card is. You're just going to be playing Iron Lad out most of the time, I feel like.
Yeah, I think you just play Iron Lad and don't suck, and make sure your top card is good.
Yep, I think Iron Lad's just going to be a good card.
Yeah,
I can see that happening. I think it'll begin more decks than people think. Like, it's not going to be a specific deck. I think it'll be slotted into a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think the Duck will be interesting. Probably one of the weaker cards of the ones we're seeing this month, but still an okay card.
Cool effect, but
a cool effect that might not be needed. Yeah,
I think it's similar to Kang, but.
I was gonna say that it's kind of similar to King, where like if your opponent snaps or something, and you can't beat them because a card of your top decking is not actually good, then you just leave. Like if you need Luke Cage and he's in your deck, and you need him in order to win, your opponent snaps, or maybe you can see that you're gonna top deck Luke, and then you snap. That's another thing you can do. So yeah, he's kind of like a King.
Yeah, I was thinking more like in Kang, in that I think it might help like you feel better about like your plays, but really if you just trust in the consistency of your deck and your plays, like it's better. Like Kang makes you feel better about like your decision to leave or retreat, or like you think like you have more information. It's just like, but sometimes it's just better to have a different card in your deck that'll let you play better. Like, because technically this is playing a 1/2 in your deck to gain more information, and Kang is playing a just like a free whatever redo card instead of a better card. So that's where I think it's just like you're kind of giving up a card in your deck to have that extra information.
Yeah, which is maybe not worth it in a 12 card deck.
Yep, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. So what did you think about the OTA that happened though?
The OTA, I think it was a good OTA. I thought there would be nerfs. I honestly thought there was a max of 2 buffs and 2 nerfs like a week. But here we got 3 buffs. We got Luke Cage going from 1 to 2 power. We got Collector going from 1 to 2 power. We got Orca going from 9 to 11, which I think we were complaining about for a while. Like, why aren't they buffing Orca? They buffed Namor and he's still garbage. So they did. They buffed Orca, and I think he's still garbage. My favorite.
You think he's still garbage? Really?
My favorite OTA change here was Luke Cage. He goes in that Toxic Void deck that I think is already cracked. They just keep buffing cards in there. They buffed Enchantress. They buffed Luke Cage. They buffed Sentry. But yeah, I love it. I can't stop playing it. But yeah, this set of OTA changes, pretty happy about them. Haven't seen much Collector. Haven't seen much Orca, but I have seen a bit of a surge in Luke Cage.
Yeah, I saw a huge surge in Luke Cage. Like I think like every deck that I was facing had Luke Cage, so you just couldn't play cards that like Scorpion value was tanking. It was just like the
Yeah.
stonks were way down, and then like even like Valkyrie you couldn't play because everyone just had Luke Cage. It was just like I wasn't playing Valkyrie, but I just this is a note. But I tried Orca a lot. I actually think Orca is not garbage now. I think it is not great, but I think it is like playable.
What do you play him
like
in?
a decent card. So I played a couple decks with Orca that actually did pretty okay. I did. Let me pull up my deck that has Orca in it. Where
Just type type Orca in the top. Not sponsored by Untapped. What the heck? Okra. Orca.
Whoops. All right.
Oh, you played one.
I played a destroyer. I think I might have just used the same deck and changed it around. So like I think this had gone through a couple iterations. Like I didn't have Sandman, I didn't have Destroyer in the deck originally, and then it eventually became this deck. And it's running also Luke Cage, which maybe that's why it's good. But it became a Sandman ramp lockdown list. This is not. Yeah, I played 80 games, so this is actually like 4 different lists. I think is the problem. So like you can't see the iterations.
I don't hate this though. I really don't hate it. I kind of like the Luke and the ongoing. I was gonna say before you even pulled this list up because I didn't see what you played him with, but I was like, I feel like he's a destroyer replacement in an ongoing deck. It kind of seems like exactly what he does, and this is kind of proving that.
Yep, that's what I try to do is make it just like a big destroyer to try and make it like you're locking down something or putting a lot of power in another lane and then just having Orca in it. So it's basically like you could Cosmo lane and have Destroyer going in, or you can just drop an Orca into an empty lane. So, and you got Claw in there to give your Orca lane a little extra boost, or Mr. Fantastic if you need it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we started with like a Spectrum list, and I was like, this just doesn't work. And like, you don't run enough small stuff that gets buffed by Spectrum really, and it's just like you're never really playing Orca and Spectrum anyway. I mean, you could ramp into it, but yeah, if you're doing ramp stuff. But
this looks,
I do think,
good.
It was fun.
Yeah, I'll have to try it out. I haven't messed around with Orca. I just haven't.
So you just called it bad and didn't try it. I see how it is.
Well, because I didn't see anyone else playing Orca, so I just assumed it was bad.
You missed my like 12-hour stream of Orca. I played a lot of, like you can see, I literally played like 80 games of Orca, which is not 12 hours, but it's like
I think we were streaming at the same time. You know,
I think that might have happened. That's possible. Yeah, this was 2 days ago. What was 2 days ago? Yeah, maybe that makes sense. But yeah, I think my favorite for Orca was, I think my favorite change was Orca actually, because it was, I did a decent amount of, I played the Luke Cage like decks that were I played Cerebro 2, and I kind of got like, I was like, okay, this is fun. I feel like the gameplay patterns of Cerebro 2 are just very straightforward, so it's like not that fun, I would say. Cerebro 2 as much.
If you look at my Cerebro 2 decks, I have a fun one in there. But yeah, I think the base normal Cerebro 2 is kind of boring, and I don't know if I really like Luke Cage Hazmat in it. Because
were you running Luke Cage Hazmat in your Cerebro 2 deck, or were you not?
I tried it recently. Oh, this Luke Jaw one, I like this, even though the win rate's negative. The cube,
but you got positive cube rates.
Yeah, because it's shocking. No one expects this. It's kind of a pile of garbage cards, but somehow works.
You're running like Iron Man, Lockjaw, with M'Baku. This is like
it's weird, but no one expects you to win. That's why you get a lot of cubes sometimes. But putting
another Cerebro 2
with
a negative cube rate.
So I don't like putting Hazmat and Luke Cage in your Cerebro 2, because then you need to draw too many cards. You need to draw Cerebro, you need to draw Luke Cage, and you need to draw Hazmat, and I feel like it's just way too restricting to rely on that. So I still think Cerebro 3 is better. Personally, I think Cerebro 2 is a lot easier to play. A lot more straightforward, but I don't think you want Hazmat in there still.
Yeah, I did notice Hazmat was a little bit awkward. Like you could never play it out if you didn't draw Luke Cage. So it's just like it was a dead card, and I put 2 cards in my deck for that. I put Wong and Hazmat.
Yeah.
So it's like, But like the gameplay pattern of Cerebro 2 in general is just you want to like fill up all the lanes with 2 costs and have them buffed by Cerebro, Mystique, Blue Marvel. And that's just all it is. It's just like there's no real decision making in this deck. It's a very solitaire deck, I feel like, for the most part.
Mhm.
I ran Ghost in it so you can like guarantee the hazmat, like whatever lane. Like it's just, but I don't know. I don't think it's that fun of a deck, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I'd rather play an Orca deck.
Like even though I won like 67% of my games, 2/3 of them, I just like played 6 games and I was like, all right, I'm bored of this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go play Orca, which was a lot more fun, I found.
Yeah, you played like 80 Orca games.
Yeah, I was having a lot of fun with Orca. That was like, it was a very fun stream. I feel like it was. That's why I really do like these OTA where we get these buffs and like we get to try out some new. It's basically like adding a new card to the game a lot of times because it's like they were unplayable and now it's playable. Like, but both of us didn't really play Collector. I tried a deck on my latest stream with Collector. I don't know if
I did not. I was going to try a Collector Helicarrier deck.
That's what I did.
Is that what you did?
I did a Hella carrier deck.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. I think the way to go would be like a Dinosaur, Collector, Moon Girl, also Coulson.
Yeah. With Helicarrier?
Yeah. And just so you can discard it.
Someone did that. It might have been like Jeff or someone I saw have a list that they were trying out like that. I wanted to just try a Hella deck for fun. I don't think Hella is particularly good in this list. I think you should probably cut it from this list. But I think a discard list is actually pretty strong right now. And you can't look at my net cubes like generally for any of my games because you just look at the win rate because I pump 8 cubes a lot when I just don't leave games when I'm in infinite. It just I can't help it. It's just like especially when you're streaming. I don't know if you do this, but just like I want my audience to be able to see, like I predict what the person plays and be like, this is what they would play, whatever. And I want them to be able to see it. It'd be like if you were watching a poker stream or a poker thing on TV and they were just like, after someone like went all in, you just didn't know what the other person's cards were. It was just like, you got the perspective of one person. It's just like, it's kind of just like not fun from a viewer perspective, right? Like to not know.
There's no big punishment for just seeing what happens aside from it lowers your net cubes. And then when you're showing them on your podcast, people are like, why is that number so negative?
Right. It does ruin the stats, which is annoying. Yeah. But it does help me also because the problem that we talked about multiple times on this podcast around like just like bots. And if you get too high of MMR, you get too many bots. And this kind of helps me not climb to a high MMR in my main account by just doing this. Yeah. So if I just like pump every once in a while, my MMR stays within. Anytime I get up to like 120-ish rank, I'm like, oh no, I'm getting towards bot MMR. And I'm just like, I got to rein it in or else it's getting bad, I feel like.
That's why I'm also not rank 120.
You said that with a little... yeah. That's why.
It's true. Should we look at the meta? The meta's changed quite a bit. More than I thought it would.
Do we want to look at the meta first, or do we want to first talk about
buffs?
Buffed next?
Okay, yeah, we can talk about. We can talk about.
We just talked about what happened last week. I think we've kind of seen more about like the way that they've wanted to go around buffing cards, right? Like they want to take a couple underplayed cards, and we've got Orca is like a good example of something that was never really played. Give it a couple powers, so I think we can more predict what they're gonna do. Although Leader was like kind of out there, where I don't know if it wasn't just like something that was never played. But
yeah,
So you ran this poll.
I ran this poll on my YouTube that gets some votes on it. We got 43,000 votes. I asked, which of these cards do you want to see buffed first between Punisher, Medusa, Crystal, and Strong Guy? And guess who won, Dera?
Who won, Dexter? I would never guess.
Punisher won. 40% of the votes went to Punisher, 36 to Crystal, 13 to Medusa, and 10 to Strong Guy. I was shocked.
I'm actually shocked. But I thought it would be like top down, like Strong Guy, Crystal, Medusa, Punisher last. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. But no one plays Punisher. He's a cool card. You probably played him when you were pool 1, pool 2, or whatever.
Yeah.
But after that, you kind of just stopped. And I was thinking, how do you buff Punisher? He's kind of just a bad Captain America.
Give
and
him
I used to
one
run
power.
Yeah, you just give him one. You make him a 3/3, where if his conditions are fully met, he's a Maximus. I think that's fine.
I think that's fine too, and it also like punishes your opponent for playing in the lane, where it doesn't really feel that punishing.
And then he's the Punisher. You get punished. It's quite fulfilling. I think that's great.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I was gonna say strong guy. He's not a very strong guy.
He's not.
No.
I mean, like a 410 is like that's Sentry already. You know, it's just like it's not that, and it's a much harder. It's really hard to keep your hand completely discarded. I feel, or not discarded, but that is what it generally ends up being. But he's not that good. You know, it's just.
I was gonna say I think that they should just keep adding one power to these bad cards. See if they start seeing play. Maybe next year we're gonna be having 4 drops that are minimum 10 power. But like strong guy, and the difference between strong guy and enchantress is kind of crazy if you think about the conditions they have to meet. Because she's a 4/6 with a really good upside, and he's a 4/4 with a hard to meet condition that just makes him okay at a 4/10.
Yeah. Him and the other one that's the same thing, Dazzler, right? Like they're both 4/4s that become 4/10s with hard to meet conditions. So I feel like both of those need to get like the same buff of just like +1 at least power. I think I would think more, but
yeah, I think maybe he could stay like a 4/4, but give him additional power if you meet his condition. Make him a 4/12.
Yeah,
so he's stronger than Namor. But it's hard to dump your entire hand, especially with all these cards like Master Mold and whatnot. Like you need MODOK almost with strong guy at this point.
Yep. Exactly, yeah. And like, yeah, I think strong guy should get buffed, but I think out of these 4 cards that you predicted, I would just like, Crystal is one that I think has just been the most underplayed card for the longest, that like hasn't seen any play really, and just like the effect is garbage because it's just like you're never really getting what you want. Like throwing away your whole hand to draw 3 cards is really hard to like get value out of, I feel like most of the time. And then it's just such a bad stat line. So they really need to give Crystal the Enchantress treatment, I think, and make her a 4/6 at least.
Yeah, at least. Minimum. I agree.
Yeah, so we'll see. What if all 4 of these cards, because you're kind of like predicting that these are the cards that need to get buffed by running this poll, right?
Somewhat. I mean, these 3 have been on my hit list for a while. Medusa, Crystal, and Strong Guy. But I was going to put in Watu instead of Punisher, but I was like, you know what? Punisher is a more exciting card than Watu. And what are you going to do to Watu? Make him a 1/3? It's kind of boring. But I guess the same thing with Punisher. You're making him a 3/3. But I was like, I like Punisher. He's a fun card. And Watu is he's just a big head. I don't know anything about Watu. Sorry to Watu fans. But Punisher, like, come on. I would love to see more Punisher. Some more ongoing as well. I think that'd be great.
I get a lot of suggestions from people. I don't know if you get this, to like put Punisher in my decks. Like I do a lot of like just deck building on stream where I'm just like figuring out what I'm going to put in. I ask for suggestions from chat, and I get a lot of people that tell me, they're like, why don't you put Punisher in? And I'm like, what Punisher?
Are they?
Like, to me, Punisher is such a bad card.
Are they joking? He is a bad card.
No, they're not joking. I think they're just newer like people who have smaller collections, newer players maybe, that like they're just so used to like putting Punisher in their own decks. Or maybe they're just bad deck builders. Like they're like, it's a 3/6, which is like not a terrible stat line if you got it to get to its biggest stat, but it's just like it rarely gets to its biggest power, and 3/6 still is like not enough power in this day and age without an extra effect. Like cards that are just giving power need to be pretty overstated to be worth playing in your deck, I feel like, and not just like potentially 6 power. Like most things that are understated or like not big power are doing a big effect, right? Like you want like a tech card.
I'm trying to think of why they don't want to buff Punisher, because I used to love, again, Punisher and Cap and all those when I was pool 1, pool 2, so I'm guessing that's where your audience is coming from. But like hitting them with the Spectrum, it's not too bad. Playing a Punisher and a Cap, hitting them with the Spec, they're 3/8 now. It's not bad.
Yeah, I think part of it is they're I think not trying to buff too many of the early pool cards because they feel like it's a good ramp into like newer different cards. So I feel like they don't like, I don't expect to see a Medusa buff, honestly, even though you put it here. Like I think it serves its purpose in the early game pool is what they're thinking, not what I'm thinking. And they think like Punisher may be the same, Elektra may be the same, like these cards that just like have a purpose that they do early on and they feel okay in that like meta that they're in while you're figuring out the cards. And then as you get more cards, they kind of just get shoved aside. And I think they're okay with that. I think that's why they're not buffing those cards.
I was thinking they recently said they were happy with Elektra and how she is, I think.
They were.
That was before Nebula came out. And in my mind, I was like, Elektra is going to be so good because Nebula's coming out. Everyone's going to be playing Nebula and I'm just going to snipe them. It was not good. It was very bad. Yeah. You can't really run bad. Elektra. Yeah. So in this time, in this day and age where everyone's running a super powerful one drop that everyone just got, you still can't even play Elektra. So cards like Elektra and Medusa are maybe just doomed to be bad. I just feel bad for Punisher because he's such a character.
He is such a character.
Like Medusa, who knows Medusa? I guess Elektra's also a really good character, but some of them just you win some, you lose some. I guess I don't know. Maybe that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. See, this is pretty much what I sorted it by. I was considering putting Quicksilver or Watu on there, but I thought they were boring. Hawkeye, I feel like is probably not going to get touched. I was thinking like maybe Baron.
I think Baron honestly could get some love. I don't know. I think they could honestly overstat Baron because I feel like it's a card that gets like potential benefit to your opponent, like drawing your opponent a card just because you're making it 6 cost. What if it draws a 6 cost card? You know, It's just an extra card that they drew. So I think Baron could be a 2/4, honestly.
Yeah, just
like
I don't know
if they
cloak.
do that, but yeah.
I think that'd be fine.
Because it's still a downside. But then if they did that, I could play Baron in my Fold'em and Mold'em deck, you know?
They just hate Baron. He doesn't even have a single variant in the game, right?
Does he not? That's crazy to me if he doesn't.
Yeah, I think he doesn't.
But he might not. But yeah, maybe that is like why they're holding off buffing Baron anyway, because they're waiting until they get some variants going for him.
Yeah.
But they did say that they actually make variants around like a combination of different reasons, and one of them is like the meta and what's popular. So like they know if a card's popular or whatever, they make more variants for it. So that's
why they buffed Collector and put out the Collector bundle.
That's the theory that I've been hearing going around. Everyone saying, they're all trying to just get us to spend money, you know, which is probably not entirely wrong, honestly. Like it's not like, it's probably not super related, but it's probably not something they didn't consider, you know? Like I know I'm doing a double negative there, but it's probably like, it was not top of mind, but it's like, it was like a nice thing as they were doing it. They're like,
it's, they like money.
Yeah. I mean, I like money, but it's still like, you don't want to like come across as like too greedy, which is kind of a segue if we want to talk about other stuff, but I don't know if we want to talk about the meta first, but I think there is a conversation to be had around being greedy in the acquisition method of of the game.
Yeah, maybe we could do some money talk before we get to the meta. But also, if we had a sponsor to this video, this is where we would talk about the sponsor.
This would be a good
sponsor. We need sponsors so we can buy the collector's bundle.
That's also true. Yeah, like we didn't buy it, right? We didn't buy it yet.
You bought it?
I bought it. Did you not buy it?
No, I bought it.
I was like, it has 10,000 tokens in it. I need those to buy the
tax write-off.
Yeah, it is a tax write-off. But just because I bought it doesn't necessarily mean that I think that everyone else should buy it, or I don't think that it should cost as much as it did, which is like part of the problem with the game is that they said that it's just very expensive, right? And we've talked about this in like every podcast, I feel like, where we say like there's a problem with acquisition, there's a problem with the acquisition, and this way and that way. It's just like a lot of problems. They did announce that they are working on some sort of revision or improvements to the card acquisition system, and that's why they're kind of holding off on like giving more information about like big bads that are coming up. And in general, I think a big rework is what they really need for the card acquisition system, which I doubt they'll do anything too giant, but I think that is the biggest potential for like saving Snap's long-term future, is if they're able to do a rework. So I don't know what they mean by revising or improving. So like Steven Jarrett, I'll read this verbatim for the chat. He said, we know there's a lot of excitement around High Evolutionary, and many of you have been wondering whether or not he'll be a big bad. We have been waiting to announce that because we are working on revising and improving our card acquisition system. And he did say, our hope has been to finalize the improved card acquisition plans and announce High Evolutionary's fate at that time, but that hasn't worked out. We can share that High Evolutionary will be a current big bad and cost 6,000 collector tokens for an indefinite amount of time. We're looking forward to sharing more about card acquisition in the future. So it does seem top of mind that they want to revise it. And they said it seems like they thought it was going to come out sooner because they were like, we were holding off info until this happened, and it didn't work out that way. What do you think they're going to change, Dekkster?
Acquisition is very bad, and I think it's stupid that there's big bats that are permanently pool 5, I think, or is pool series 5?
Series 5.
I think it'd be okay for them to be big bads in series 5, but put every other card that's not a big bad in series 4 and let it drop down to 3. Or another thing they could do, just make it so you can buy series 3 cards. I think that would be fine as well. But yeah, there's a lot of ways they can take this and kind of mend the problem. I do feel like they are trying to do something. They just don't know what they're going to do yet. But I think putting new cards, like I keep referring to Snow Guard in this situation, like Ghost, maybe even like Howard the Duck, like those could be series 4, or you could even put them straight into series 3. That'd be
think
nice.
Better cards should be more expensive, is what it sounds like you're saying?
Not necessarily. I don't really care if they're big bads or not. I just think the whole point of a big bad is kind of silly if everything gets straight into pool 5. Anyways, I would like it if these would drop and there weren't permanent big bads. So
yeah, I think when they talk about like revising and improving the acquisition system, I think like there is going to be a new big bad or something like that's not the same way, like a new way of doing it. I do think that big bad is bad for the game, and I think that like basically gatekeeping cards based on how good they are is also like, it doesn't seem like they are making big bads only around like if they're good or not. But I see the sentiment a lot, like you just said, where like, oh, cards like Ghost and Snowguard, why not drop them into pool 4 immediately or pool 3 immediately? Because they're bad cards and they just like more people would pick them up. But it's like, I think they need to do a complete rework that doesn't, I don't care if it's like a bad or a good card. I just think you should be able to get cards in an easier, not so expensive way if you want to experiment with a new card, right? Like it shouldn't cost you $50+ per card. And it costs like $200 actually, because it's like, we've talked about this before. It's like you get one card for free to play. You get one card for $10, then you get one card for like $50 or $60, depending on which bundles you end up buying. And then you have to pay like $200 to get that last card of a thing. So it's like, it can get very expensive very fast for acquiring these new cards, right? So
I feel like it's not $200 though. The collector's token was $100 for 10,000, right?
Right, but that's a 1.5 cards. So it's it doesn't work out over the long term. Like the math does, like that is basically like the discounted $50 card, right? So you get the discount because it's not quite enough for 2 cards, right? So with buying all of the, and there's not going to be a big collector's. I did the math. We showed it last podcast for what I needed to buy for bundles to be able to afford all the things that I wanted and like how much I had to spend. And it was around like $50 plus a card because I had spent some in the past and bought some like credits and stuff. So I had saved up a little bit, and I didn't buy Snow Guard. So it's like by saving up, not buying Snow Guard, I was able to avoid having to buy credits out. So if you have to buy the credits is when it becomes $200. So if they offer enough bundles, it can be cheaper.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I think a lot of people are quitting the game over the card acquisition issues.
Yes, they are. So we actually had this tweet that I saw, and you obviously saw it. You retweeted this, but I saw this original thread with Kibler replying to Raven talking about big bads, how he doesn't think that they're good, and Kibler went on to say that not only does he not care about the big bad distinction, but he said he loves Snap and used to play constantly, and he quit a month ago and hasn't played since because he got bored because he never getting any new cards to play with. So and then two people followed that up. Admirable and Sottable said literally exactly the same, and Sottable said and me, but earlier. So obviously acquisition is hurting player retention, not only new players, but people who were playing.
And then I don't know if you have any friends in real life, but I have one or two, and they said they used to like Snap, but they've kind of, weaned off of playing it because card acquisition is so slow. So like they were stuck with a deck that just wasn't cutting it, but they couldn't get a new card because you can get one a month. So maybe next month they come and try it again. But at that point, they've probably uninstalled the game, or they've kind of just lost their desire to want to play it. So it's bad. It's bad. They got to fix this because you can't have casual players just leaving like that.
Yeah, so I have the same exact thing where people have said that they've like tried Snap or whatever, and then they've quit because it's just like in Pool 3 it gets too bad. Like, but they don't even realize like Pool 3 isn't the only problem. It's like Pool 4 and 5 are a big problem as well. So it's like the whole thing is just a problem once you get past, like, Snap has one of the best new player experiences. I've said this time and time again, where it just feels great to get into the game. It feels really fun, and you're like collecting stuff at a good rate, and you're trying new stuff out. And I've just seen so many people hit that wall and just quit. And I feel like they need to do something about that, because they get some people to stay and they spend crazy amounts of money because the game's so expensive. And maybe that's how they can justify like the player drop off, because of how expensive they make the game. But if they just made it cheaper and easier to get cards, so many more people would stay. Plus, a lot of people I've talked to, my real life friends, that they're real. They said that they won't even try Snap because they've heard about like how bad it is, and they don't want to get into that experience, like, and then get like hit that wall. So it's just like it's stopping new players from even starting because they know that it's not going to be worth getting into.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big issue. They got to address that.
And I think they will address it a little bit, but I don't actually know if I have a lot of faith in them doing a big enough overhaul to satisfy what I think they would need to stop the bleeding, honestly. Like, I don't know if it's actually bleeding, but I would guess that like Snap users are not going up anymore, would be my guess.
It's definitely not having that exponential growth that it was having 2-3 months ago.
Yeah, like October to January, it was just all growth, all going up, I feel like. And then since January, February, I feel like it's been on a downward trend.
Yeah.
That actually, like, the viewership at least is what we can see. And I feel like that's kind of like the trend of the general Snap viewership had its peak around like January, February, if you look at the trends, I think.
Yeah.
And it's slowly burnt out. And a lot of games are able to revitalize that by like having those big injections, like expansions. And Snap doesn't have that. So if it just slowly fades away because of the way acquisition works, they need something like an expansion or something to like bring it back, right? Like, how else are they going to get another big buzz? Like, I guess the new game mode we talked about.
We need new game mode. Yeah. Conquest coming out, or like some sort of arena free to play mode would be cool. I think those are like the only ways for them to have those big nets where they can grab audience back.
Yeah, because just acquisition in general, like having one new card a week, it feels not big enough to have like a catalyst to be like, come back to the game. It's just a constant drip, which is just, I don't know if that, I don't think it's good for the game for it to be released that way, but
yeah,
I don't know. like for the long term. I think it might be fun in the short term and it keeps it fresh, but I like one game I play a lot right now that I think is great, and it has like 10x the viewership of Snap at least, and like probably 100 times the players, maybe not 100 times, maybe like 10 times the players. I actually don't know. It could be 100 times. It's TFT. So TFT does this thing where every 4 months they're going. They were doing it every like 6 months, I think, before or something, or maybe every 4 months. They do a complete overhaul of the game where they basically it'd basically be like if Snap was like, all right, here are all the cards for the game, and now we're gonna give you all new cards. So it's just like the mechanics are all the same as Snap, but we're just replacing every card in the entire game. And this is like if they did that every 4 months, that's basically what TFT does, which is kind of insane to me. But at the same time, it's great because it like revitalizes it. It's so fresh that it's just like you get a completely new look, and it's just like it keeps the game from ever dying, I feel like. And it just
yeah.
And if you have a one bad set that you don't like, you can come back for the next one.
The audience in TFT is 10 times larger than in Snap.
Yeah, it's huge.
And
it's growing, I feel like.
Snap and Hearthstone are about neck and neck, and they're both above Runeterra. But TFT, my God, that's crazy.
TFT is insane. And people complain about like things in Hearthstone, and they complain in Snap of like too many changes, or like they say like, oh, it's fine, like I don't change too much or whatever. But it's like I've loved how they did the buffs every week in Snap, and like I want more changes more frequently. I want more card drops. I want bigger card drops. I want bigger shifts in the meta. You know, I want things that are like I just want a big dump of like 10 cards, you know, at least like 12 cards.
I would like a big dump every now and then. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like quarterly, just boom, here's 5 cards.
Yeah. And then you would maybe get more shifts in the meta, you know? Like, how are you feeling about this meta right now?
I'm actually quite liking the meta. There's a lot of diversity.
Yeah. I actually think the meta had, for the last couple of weeks, some good shifts because of the nerfs and buffs from the OTAs. Like, I think that had kept it a little bit fresh. Like, the only thing is, like, a lot of the good decks are still, like, very old decks. But there is, like, one new archetype that I've seen pop up that most people are, like, a lot of people are playing, I would say. Like, a lot of people have tried, at least. Yeah. And that's the stature deck. The Darkhawk stature deck.
Yeah, this deck
You try this deck out?
It's cracked. I think I got to rank 98, and then I was playing off stream. I was like, I want to play a deck that's doesn't require much attention, and so I picked up the stature deck, and it just keeps winning. It didn't feel fair, honestly. The power level of it during my brief bout with it, it kind of reminded me of early days of Shuri, where it just couldn't be stopped. But no one was complaining about Shuri back in the day because no one had Shuri because of the card acquisition being so bad. So now it's like you kind of need Jeff and Stature and Nebula. So it's a bit paywall.
And Darkhawk, which is still Series 4, right?
I think he's still 4. Yeah. And Zabu, you would have needed Zabu as well. I think Zabu's also Series 4.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a pay-to-win deck. Once more people get their hands on this, it's going to be interesting. What I noticed was kind of like Doom Wave or just Wave decks in general were doing okay. They were growing in popularity, doing well, but Stature Buff or Stature Energy Discount, as well as the Miles Energy Discount, they go through Wave.
Yes, speaking of that, I actually was going to talk about this. You brought me into it without it. I built a deck specifically because of that interaction where I combine the Black Bolt Stature, but I do Moon Knight Stature and Doom Wave in the same deck.
Wow.
So I am the Wave player now.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, this is exciting. Good cooking. You're a chef, top chef.
Yeah, this is a let's cook. I was like, let's take 2 good archetypes and smash them together. That was my thought process here, and
successful.
Yeah, it was a very good deck. I ran it only for 30 games, 72% win rate, over like 1.4 cubes a game. It's running Moon Knight Stature instead of Black Bolt Stature. Then it runs Wave, Doctor Doom, and She-Hulk as that package. And then it runs the Nightcrawler Jeff Miles package. And then it just has like some decent cards, Lizard, Enchantress. I put Scorpion in here, but it's not. This is like where I realize I like Luke Cage and Scorpion aren't so great. But you have Enchantress to kill their Luke Cage, so it's okay. And then I run Ghost Rider, which was a spicy pickup. I actually had swapped around that one card slot a couple times to figure out what felt good. Ghost Rider actually feels good because you're running Moon Knight in this deck, so you're discarding like a random card, and Ghost Rider actually is really good because if you discard your Doom, you really want to bring it back. If you discard your She-Hulk, you want to bring it back. Like even getting like an Enchantress or a Miles is pretty good to bring back. So
I like
or even
this.
Wave is actually good. Yeah,
I like this.
I think it was a good cook.
That's a good
I think
cook.
this might be the next thing that kind of takes over in like it's very similar in power level. It doesn't run the Darkhawk stuff, which is very powerful, but I I was trying like the Darkhawk deck and just like trying to change it up a little bit to see like what we could do to like maybe improve it slightly if it's possible to improve, or if that's the 12 best cards. Do you think it's the 12 best cards? Because you tried it more than I did.
I felt
the 12 cards, right?
The one card that felt like it could be changed to me was Polaris.
Yep, I thought the same thing.
I think it could just be Nightcrawler instead, or something else.
Yeah, I think that's what I actually did that. Or no,
yeah,
I did
you put in
Nightcrawler in my
Nightcrawler.
Lights Cook. Yeah,
Yeah, but I think that it feels awkward. I mean, so many people have move cards. You're probably going to be able to get Miles down, but I think one of the strengths of this is playing Black Bolt on 5, but also moving your Jeff on 5, so you can Miles on 6.
Yep.
With a Stature and also with a Rock Slide or an Enchantress or a Shang or a Darkhawk. So yeah, I don't know. Polaris felt awkward, so I'd probably tinker around with dropping her for something else. But yeah, your cook deck looked fantastic.
Yeah, I was running this deck for a few games, and my thoughts on it were that you're running Zabu and you're running 4-drops, and it just felt a little awkward to be running Stature and Miles in a deck where you maybe want to turn 6 where you play like 2 4s for 3, right? So you play 2 3-cost 4-drops.
Mm-hmm.
And just like I think having a one like Miles and Stature as like 1-drops is a little bit awkward in that, where you're like, oh, I can't play Rock Slide Darkhawk on my last turn, or I can't play like Shang Darkhawk. I have to like, or unless I don't play Stature. So there's a lot of games where I like had those like I wanted to Shang and Darkhawk, but I have Stature. And it's just like now it's like I didn't like that kind of like, do I have to do this or that? So I wanted to kind of go into like Wave where I would be able to play Stature, Miles, and any card I want.
Right.
Which was nice.
Yeah, I like that. I'll have to mess around with that deck and make a video on it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be one of my upcoming videos. I already recorded some games for that, so I just got to edit that, put it together, but that's upcoming. Let's Cook is what I call it, because it was literally just a cook of crossing 2 decks together.
I like that.
It was fun.
Yeah, sometimes cooks go well, sometimes not so well, but this time it went well.
Yeah, definitely went well. But yeah, the meta overall, I think I think the variety, well, let's just go down the list for the people real quick. So A tier is that the top of the list is actually the deck we've been talking about, is that
Stature.
Darkhawk Stature deck with 57% win rate, 4.1% popularity. Sarah Control is the other A tier deck, just like your standard Sarah Hitmonkey Control. 5% popularity, so it's up. 53% win rate. So significantly, like that 57% win rate is like really high for that Stature deck compared to like all the rest of the decks. So
yeah,
that's a standout for sure. And then I think just the next 5, I'll just read them out here. It's Doom Wave with 2%, 54% win rate. Sarah Surfer, 3.2% play rate, 53% win rate, or 3, yeah. And then Death Wave made a comeback. The deck that never dies. It just comes back every single meta. 3% play rate, 52.4% win rate. And Lockjaw surprisingly keeps coming up. I don't know how this deck
The
keeps
popularity is low.
It is low. It's just like, I guess maybe just like the people who like the Lockjaw decks are pretty good with them and they keep playing them and keep the win rate high enough, but it's just not popular enough because I actually don't think it's as good as it says it is.
I don't think so either.
I think it's just like the people who play it are good and that just like keeps it looking good because whenever the popularity is low like that, you can't really look into the stats that much because there was a time when like I looked into like this control deck, what is this? Archetype. The most popular deck is my deck that I played. 6,500 games were played of the exact 12 cards that I put together for my Nebula list.
The Nebula Lockdown.
Yeah, this is the one that I put these together, and a lot of people started playing it, and you can see that it is a very high win rate for this specific list, but then the control archetype is just like low in general because it is just the bucket of every deck that doesn't fit into another archetype. But yeah, I think this control lockdown list is actually a very good list. That I think you could tweak a card or two in it. But yeah,
I feel like you don't need Star-Lord. Do you like him that much?
Yeah, I think Lizard would be better than Star-Lord.
Yeah,
after playing the deck a bunch. But I did see like someone like, I don't know if you know Lobster. He put out a YouTube video like a couple days ago where he basically took this deck and he called me out. It was like, so I took Dera's deck and I just removed the bad cards and put in good cards, and it's a great deck. So he like took out Star-Lord, put in Lizard, and like I think he took out Rocket too, maybe, and put in something better.
I was liking Rocket with Gamora,
but you can just put a Titania in, you know.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
Better, yeah. That's the thing. I do think that's what I tried to do, but it actually didn't turn out that well. I do think since this deck became really popular, a lot of people were playing some version of this deck. Maybe not my deck, but just like a lockdown Nebula deck. The meta kind of shifted around that, and people were playing decks that were like good against this kind of deck, and therefore this deck win rate would go down because of how meta shifts work, right? Like it was really good when it first came out, and people weren't expecting it, and like the play patterns were just like weird for people, and it like people were able to get wins. But as you see it more, people get better at playing against it, and they also play decks that are better against it. So
yeah, I think I made a video on this also, so that probably increased its play rate.
Oh, you made a video on this exact 12?
I think so. Yeah.
That might be why it's played so much, because this went up a lot since last time I checked.
Yeah, the Dera 12. Dera's already infinite Nebula Lockdown deck.
Yep. Yeah. Already infinite. I took it all the way to infinite. It was literally the one deck I played to infinite. I played it the entire way. Yeah. It's literally just all of my games. This should say plus 200 cubes, I think, because it was literally the entire way. Great deck.
It's a good deck. Yeah, it's a good deck.
I think that basically wraps it up, though. We finished the episode 6 pod.
Wow.
Sponsor us.
6 episodes. Sponsor us. Also press the like button. Also, it's Dera's birthday. Oh. So you should all subscribe, hit the notification bell, give them a thumbs up. If you're watching on a podcast platform, give them a good review.
Stop by the stream. You know, I'll be streaming on my birthday too.
Stop by the stream. Give them your Twitch Prime if you haven't given it to me yet.
Or, you know, just use your Twitch Prime on your favorite streamer, you know, whoever that is.
Yeah, do that.
Whether that's Dekkster or myself and no one else, you know.
Yeah, one of us. Your favorite.
It's obviously one of us. No, all right. Well, thanks everybody. I'll see you guys all next time. Next one's on Dekkster's channel.
Yeah.
Or here on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from.
Yes, it's true. We're everywhere.
We are everywhere. All right. Thanks. Dekkster and Dera out.
See ya.